Good morning, these are the top stories. The latest on the disappearance of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Saudi Arabia appears ready to admit that Khashoggi was killed in an interrogation gone wrong inside its consulate in Istanbul, multiple media outlets are reporting. But should Riyadh make that admission? It would contradict accounts of Turkish officials who allege that Khashoggi was killed by a 15-man assassination squad that included a forensics expert along with a bone saw to dismember the journalist's body. Turkish investigators were finally able to conduct a search of the consulate early Tuesday. Until now, the Saudi regime has insisted that Khashoggi left its consulate alive and well on October 2. Despite the fact he hasn't been seen since. After a phone call with Saudi King Salman yesterday, U.S. President Donald Trump said rogue killers could have gotten to Khashoggi, who is a prominent critic of the king's son and appointed heir, Prince Mohammed. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met Tuesday with King Salman and then Foreign Minister al-Jubeir and will have dinner with the Crown Prince. This is the Daily Morning Update newsletter. If you're reading this on the web, or it was forwarded to you from someone else, you can sign up for Morning Update and All Globe newsletters here. Countdown to legalization, illegal dispensaries, U.S. enforcement, travel, black market. Don't expect a crackdown on unlicensed cannabis dispensaries come legalization tomorrow, Vancouver Chief Constable Adam Palmer said. He's also the president of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and he hasn't heard of any plans to raid dispensaries. October 17 is going to come and then October 18 and then October 19. And you're probably not going to see a whole big change with regard to what the police are doing or what anybody else is doing. A Toronto police spokesperson also said it will be business as usual tomorrow and after. Meanwhile, a Canadian living south of the border has been detained in a U.S. jail for 75 days over a decades-old marijuana conviction that Canada already pardoned him for. Dimitri Furman, a former Canadian artillery captain who once worked with the CIA and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, was arrested while trying to register a truck at a motor vehicle bureau in Ohio. Furman was convicted on a drug trafficking charge in 1992 at the age of 23 when he was with a friend who tried selling marijuana to a police officer. Despite being pardoned by Canada in 2002, the conviction is listed as the reason for his detention by U.S. authorities. For Canadians making travel plans, be sure to leave marijuana at home if you're flying to the United States. While cannabis may be legal in some states, it's still illegal at the federal level. But if you're flying within Canada, legalization means you'll be allowed to carry up to 30 grams in either your checked luggage or carry-on. Vaporizers are allowed, too, but only in your carry-on, and you must remove the batteries, and no, you can't use it on board. In opinion, Anderson and Rosalie Wyange argue that the black market won't be going away anytime soon. Black markets exist if there is insufficient legal supply or if they can offer comparable goods at lower cost. Based on available data on the number of licensed producers and medical marijuana production and inventory levels, we estimate that legal supply will at most meet 30% to 60% of total demand in the first year of legalization. From where to buy cannabis to how to invest, read our guide on everything you need to know about legalization. Justin Trudeau says he won't let politics slip into the decision to allow Huawei's 5G tech. The Prime Minister's remarks come amid mounting pressure to join the US and Australia in barring the Chinese firm from the next generation mobile networks. U.S. senators recently wrote to Trudeau urging him to ban Huawei from 5G on national security grounds, and yesterday the Conservative Party for the first time called on the government to do the same. But Trudeau said his government makes decisions based on evidence, based on the recommendations of our extraordinarily effective communications security establishment. The CSE has set up labs to test equipment. But Tory public safety critic Pierre Paulus said U.S. officials told him that this method isn't adequate to uncover potential backdoors. For subscribers, the federal government is turning its attention to trade talks with China. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says his government won't be deterred by the non-market clause in the tentative trade pact with the U.S. and Mexico. For subscribers, The Prime Minister said the US had pushed for even stronger rules to limit Canada's ability to pursue a deal with China, but they reached a compromise. "We got them to a place where we agreed to mutually discuss trade negotiations we might make with China, which is positive for us," Trudeau said. The current terms require Canada, the US and Mexico to give one another 3 months' notice before starting free trade talks with a non-market country like China. Signatories could also choose to withdraw from the pact if one of the countries signs a deal with a non-market economy. Got a news tip that you'd like us to look into? Email us at tips@globianmail.com. Need to share documents securely? Reach out via Secure Drop in case you missed IT. Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen dies at the age of 65. Allen died after a battle with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of cancer. He helped launch Microsoft after persuading his school friend Bill Gates to drop out of Harvard. He left the tech firm in 1983 after a dispute with Gates, just months after his first brush with cancer. But he used his fortune to pursue a wide variety of projects over the years, including buying the Portland Trail Blazers and Seattle Seahawks sports franchises. The Seattle native also poured more than $1.5 billion toward philanthropic efforts that included brain research. Morning markets nudge higher. World stocks nudged higher for the most part on Tuesday, as focus turned to earnings season and a rebound in Italian assets helped battered equities find firmer ground for now. Tokyo's Nikkei gained 1.3%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng lost 0.1%, and the Shanghai Composite shed 0.9%. In Europe, London's FTSE 100 was down 0.3% by about 6:10 a.m. ET, with Germany's DAX and the Paris CAC 40 up by between 0.1 and 0.2%. New York futures were up. The Canadian dollar was just about bang on 77 US cents, having gained on the Bank of Canada's Business Outlook survey Monday. What everyone's talking about: Toronto politicians need to get serious about the affordability crisis in Vancouver, where rents and home prices are among the highest in Canada. The issue of affordability has long been top of mind among politicians, but in a Toronto race defined by John Tory, who has what appears to be an insurmountable lead in the polls, and who refuses to debate his one serious opponent face-to-face, Jennifer Keesmaat's message about the urgency of dealing with the affordable housing crisis is not getting through. It's a mistake for Toronto politicians to see the issue as anything less than a top priority. The affordability crisis is real and pressing. Almost half the city's households live in rental units, and half of those are spending more than 30% of their net income on rent, the widely accepted standard for affordability. Globe editorial. Healthcare, not Donald Trump, is the dominant issue for Democrats in two key races in the great national referendum that Democratic leaders in Washington say they are conducting on the Donald Trump administration. The blue wave they assert will give them back control of the Congress and repudiate the president. All of Mr. Trump's issues are prominent: the economy, health care, old age pension supplements, and trade. The surprising omission: any mention of Mr. Trump in a bitterly contested House race here in Maine, where the Democrats are hoping to topple a Republican lawmaker, and in another congressional riding in Nebraska, where the political dynamic is similar. David Shribman: totally gruesome, totally awesome, the life of teen girls. Girls in particular face an extraordinary set of challenges at the moment, including pressure to excel, to be popular, to be pretty and likable, all while existing in a system that still discriminates against their ambitions. Girls are still given messages that public spaces don't really belong to them: walk with your keys in your hand. Cross the street if someone's following you. Park under a streetlight. Text me when you get home. I wasn't surprised to read, in a survey released by Plan International Canada, that only 16% of young women aged 18 to 24 felt completely safe in public spaces. An even more alarming statistic from the survey: 2/3 of young women have a friend who's been sexually harassed. And yet, when people ask me where I find hope, I say that I find it among young women defying expectations and doing great work across the country. Elizabeth Renzetti, Living Better Caribbean Travel Update: what to expect 1 year after Maria and Irma. A year after Hurricanes Irma and Maria, About 75% of the resorts and hotels in the Caribbean are now fully open, according to the region's tourism association. But the numbers vary widely by island. While 80% of Puerto Rico's hotel rooms have reopened, only 40% are back to normal in St. Martin and the British Virgin Islands. Moment in time. Jane Eyre published for first time October 16, 1847. Jane Eyre, initially, was not written by Charlotte Bronte. When first published 171 years ago, one of literature's great classics bore the name Currer Bell. At a time when female thinkers were often critically derided, the world was introduced, via pseudonyms, to Bronte and her sisters, Emily's Wuthering Heights, by Alice Bell, and Aunt Agnes Grey, by Acton Bell. It makes sense, in Time Machine retrospect, that Jane's story was actually written by a woman. She first tells us of her harsh childhood, followed by her schooling before moving on to adult life as a governess and her love for Mr. Rochester. All of it is steeped in social criticism, of class, Christianity, sexuality, that, really, would have passed a well-to-do Victorian man by. I am no bird, and no net ensnares me, I am a free human being with an independent will. Could a man have penned that then? Bronte, luckily, did not toil long in the margins of her own fame and was able to doff Currer during her lifetime. If only she could have also seen the generations of literature, film, theater and television her novel inspired, and still inspires to this day. Cliff Lee. If you'd like to receive this newsletter by email every weekday morning, go here to sign up. If you have any feedback, send us a note.